What's up, guys? This is Chris with Half Chrome. I apologize if we're a little echoey today in the middle of a studio upgrade. You may have noticed if you're a subscriber to this channel, this is a little bit different setup than we're used to, and I don't have my echo canceling paneling up yet. And if you're not a subscriber, today's the day. You're going to learn a lot today about the Mavic Mini and DJI Mini 2 accessories that are available, which ones make sense to get depending on your budget, and what kind of activities you're planning to do with the Mini 2. Today I'm going to go through 10 to 15 different accessories and why you might want them. So stick around, I'm going to be right back. So number one on the list is actually the DJI Fly More combo for this drone. If you're getting the Mini 2, it's not a great deal, but it's still a good deal. And the main reason to get it, I think, is really this guy here. It comes down to the batteries and the charger. So this thing is going to let you charge 3 batteries at a time, albeit sequentially, unfortunately. But you know, that's really one of the key additions. Obviously, you're also getting, in addition to the batteries and the charger, a lot of other goodies like extra props. You get this bag here, which isn't my favorite. I'll get into that more in a minute. But you get it, and it is very usable. You also get this prop strap here. So this guy holds the props down when the drone's folded up. I was originally pretty skeptical about this, although it is pretty handy, and it is worth getting if you didn't happen to get the Fly More combo. It isn't trivial to get this on. It takes about as much time as getting the drone in the bag. But what it saves time with is when you need to pull that drone in and out to get the memory card out or to get the battery in and out. So all in all, I do recommend picking up one of these. So that's the Fly More kit. What's number 2 on my list? It's going to be a set of filters. This set here is from Freewell. I use this as a chance to point out that all the stuff that I'm going to talk about today has links down in the description. I didn't just throw up any links. I did some research, found the best prices. Some of these links are going to DJI.com, some are going other places wherever I could find the best deals for whatever that particular item was. When it comes to these filters, you have 2 good choices in my opinion, choices that I've tried out these brands in the past. First up, these Freewell filters. Freewell actually sent us these for the Mavic Mini, and they work just the same on the Mini 2. It's really the same camera body on the 2 drones. Mavic Mini and the Mini 2 are 2 of the drones that DJI actually doesn't offer filters on, probably because they don't have the removable filter capability, and this is kind of a scab on device. It does run the risk of putting your gimbal a little out of balance and picking up some extra vibrations. That being said, I've had good success so far with these. The only time I didn't was after a crash. And probably the filter was off a little bit and shaking all over the place. Another good reason to subscribe is I'm going to be referring today to some videos we've done in the past. This one now, I did an exhaustive exercise looking at, I think, 5 different makers of filters on the Zoom and the Mavic 2 Pro. Out of those, Tiffin, Polar Pro, those are your high-end premium things. Freewell's been moving up on that list, and ultimately didn't really find any major issues with the Freewell filters. They are a good set of filters. This set with 8 filters is going to run you about $100. If that's a little rich for you, my next recommendation is from Skyreek. For about $50-$55 on Amazon, you can get really a nice set of filters that's going to cover most of your needs. Doesn't have the polarized ND filters, but it does have 1 polarized filter and several NDs. It's going to cover everything you need. So check out the video. You'll see the link above where I do an exhaustive exploration of everything you would not want to know about the filters. What I hadn't done until very recently was really convince myself that filters are worth it. And after some testing, I really do think they are. So to validate that, I went and flew some very similar flight paths without a filter and with the ND16 from Freewell. I live in Illinois. We have cornfields here, so, you know, when in Rome. So I flew the same path. It was kind of a cool day, actually, because we had the sun poking through the clouds, but this dark, gloomy backdrop to some of these shots, so it's kind of nice. Now, I shot this 3 different ways. One with no filter. It was about 1/400th, 1/500th of a second was the actual exposure time for each frame, filming at 25 frames per second. And with that, if you just stop the shot, you'll see that it just looks like a photograph. Every part of each frame is sharp, and that can be a little distracting when you watch it as a video. Then what I did, I threw on the ND16 and it ended up being just about perfect. With the ND16 on the DJI Mini 2, I was able to kind of bounce around between ISO 100, ISO 200, and get down to that 1/50th of a second exposure time. That is where you want to be for getting the optimal, what they call 180 degrees amount of blur. And that term comes from old school shutters that used a crazy circular rotating thing. And so basically what it means is half of the frame the shutter is open for, so you're getting some blur. In addition to that, I also shot at 360 degrees of blur, meaning the shutter was open for the entire frame. That produced, actually, I thought, some pretty cool results. It is a little blurry, especially in the bottom corners where the motion is the fastest, coming at you with the old corn husks on the ground there. But it looks pretty cool. The background is still nice and sharp because it's not moving that fast pixel to pixel. But you get that really cool blur effect, and while it may not be as realistic, maybe a little more blur than you would experience in real life perhaps, it does produce really cool effects. Regardless, with that ND16, I had a little bit of freedom to do whichever effect I like without going to ISO 400 or higher than that, and so I really do enjoy it now. I think I'm going to be flying by default in the daylight, at least, with this ND16. Quick call upstairs.
Yeah.
Hey, could there be a little less banging, perhaps?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Alright, so enough about filters. I do like them. We'll be flying with the ND16 from Freewell, and a couple links in the description. They're definitely worth checking out. So to make your footage look more professional, I do recommend picking up some filters, and check out those links in the description. Number 3 on the list is a case. DJI decided to switch from the case you get with the Mini, and now with the Fly More package, you're getting this bag. If you care to upgrade for unknown reasons to a more fashionable bag, you can also do that and get that from DJI.com, but DJI isn't offering a case. I love cases. They organize your stuff better, they're easier to get stuff in and out of without feeling like you're crushing props and things, and I think most importantly, they provide more protection for your very valuable drone. I also love waterproof cases. So the benefit really of a waterproof case is when you're on a boat. So even if you're not planning on throwing your drone overboard in its case, it's just very uncomfortable having a case that you know you have to constantly try to keep it dry, you're keeping it in a plastic bag. Things on a boat get wet, they just do. So I really like a waterproof case. It comes in this guy. So this isn't a Mini 2 case. This is actually my Go Professional case for the DJI Mavic Zoom Mavic 2 Pro. So these cases are really nice, and I do highly recommend a waterproof case. You can get a non-waterproof case on Amazon right now for $40. The offerings are still pretty slim for the Mini 2, but just for $50 you can get a waterproof one. Or you can go to goprofessionalcases.com and get one from them. They also offer a $30 foam insert to replace if you happen to already have the right size case, for example, for the original Mini. And as you can see here, this thing did survive the dunk in the fish tank. I had to load it up with like 30 pounds of iron to get it to sink to the bottom. It floats. That's another benefit if you're just worried about it getting wet on the boat, because stuff on a boat gets wet, or if it does fall in and you have one of these sealed up and closed, it'll float, so can't really lose it. Alright, number 5 on my list, and really the last one in the must-haves category, is a car charger. So what can you do? I just like this. Check out this charger here. So this has 2 USB outputs. Everything on this drone charges with just USB-C, and this charger will put out 2 times 3.9 amps. So really beefy charging capability, and that's what I would recommend using. It's really the last charger you're ever going to need for your car. You can charge everything about as fast as just possible. So this thing's about $20 and it has 5-star reviews. You can't go wrong with it. Okay, now I've got 5 items that you may want to pick up. It really depends what you want to do with your DJI Mini or Mini 2. First on that list is prop guards. The best deal here actually isn't some aftermarket deal that you could find on Amazon. I think it's actually the way to go is just go straight to DJI.com. These prop guards are not for the Mini. These are my prop guards for the Air. I don't have many prop guards yet, but I'm definitely thinking about getting them. Now, why? I don't really like flying with prop guards. But the reason would be if you're flying in tight quarters indoors, it can really save you from a crash. You can bump off walls a little bit without just falling flat on the floor. So if you fly indoors, pick up some prop guards. It's $19-20. Number 2 on my list of maybes is a really bright strobe light to fly in twilight hours, or if you're being naughty, to fly at night, or maybe you have a waiver. The Mini 2 is very light on LEDs. They've got a tiny little thing here and now a tiny little guy up front. These aren't really going to help you see this when it starts to get dark out. I get about 100 feet away in an area that has other lights kind of distracting me, and I have a really hard time picking up even a DJI Mavic 2. So this thing's just going to disappear. I definitely recommend picking up a light like this. You'll see a link in the description, and this one just seems really good. Really light. It goes for several hours, lightweight, small, but will make it much easier to keep track of your drone, even from 100 or 200 feet away. It's really easy to lose these things. Next on the list, number 3 on the maybes, is the iPad holder. Maybe you like flying with an iPad. It gives you a much bigger view, much easier to spot issues in your shot, just a much nicer interface. A lot more effort to set up. You got to add these adapters and all that, but if you like flying with a bigger screen, you're going to need something to hold it. This new remote doesn't even hold an iPad Mini anymore. So what I did here is I actually adapted a holder I already had for my old Mavics where it would go down here, and I just designed and 3D printed something new to clamp here. What I really like about this one though is, see, I can drop the screen down over the remote. Now that would seem counterintuitive, makes it harder to see your controls, but once you get accustomed to flying this drone, you're not going to really need to see those controls anymore. And the reason to do this is it's much more balanced. So when the screen, a big screen like this, is really high, you're actually really awkward holding it. So I like the ability to drop this thing forward over the remote, and you can do that with some aftermarket stuff. So I'll make this bracket available on our website and on Thingiverse. But one thing to look for in the link in the description that I put to an aftermarket holder that mounts the same way as this one is look for something that comes down here, down into the remote. That's really key to making it more secure and not want to slide off the side. So make sure you find that. A lot of the aftermarket stuff doesn't have that feature. So you can find a good holder on Amazon that I recommend based on the reviews and having that extra feature in there for about $20. Next up on my list is a landing pad. This is number 4 on the optional. Now for many people, a landing pad isn't an option, but I would say it actually is if you're comfortable doing hand catches with your Mini. Now when I got that footage you saw earlier in the cornfield, I didn't have a landing pad. How did I take off and land when I was out in that cornfield? I actually just took off from the bag. I found the bag isn't as nice and flat as the case I want, so it would have issues just sitting like this. So just hung the camera off the front so I didn't get a gimbal error. Then you have to land it. This is really too small of a target for even an experienced pilot to try to land on. So it comes down to the hand catch. And that's what you see here in this footage. Didn't get footage of me doing it, but from the drone. You just grab the bottom of the drone, kind of sneak up on it quickly before it has a chance to run away from you using its downward facing sensors. Grab the drone and quickly flip it over. Now if you're not comfortable with that, my favorite backup option is a landing pad. These things come in various shapes and sizes. Probably the most popular and common is the fabric kind that kind of folds up. It's a circle of steel with fabric in the middle that you can kind of roll up. Those are pretty good. You will still find on grass you may have issues with these really short drones, the gimbal kind of rubbing on it and getting angry at you. So that's why a nice firm pad can come in handy, but you know, it's a lot to cart around even when it's folded up. A decent landing pad is going to cost you anywhere from $10 to $20. One more item is a Lipo Bag. So they do make bags specific for the Mini batteries, which would work for the Mini 2 as well. These are the ones I happen to have, and I don't really feel the need to buy any that are custom for this. The reason is this is more of just a safety backup item. I should be telling you to use these bags everywhere you go, in your house, in your car, everywhere. However, I'd be a bit of a hypocrite because I don't use them all that often. The practical reason I would have these for my DJI drone is for travel. So it is possible in some countries that you get stopped and they ask you if you have a Lipo bag to travel with extra batteries. and that's what it's going to come in handy. You're going to be like, yep, I got one. So have one of these on hand, some shape or form, so you can throw your batteries. The nice thing is you can use a small bag for your small batteries. Last up in the optional category is something I don't have, and it was going to be in my like don't buy category, but really there might be a use for it. Maybe you have some fun with this. So it's this little accessory mount that you can get to throw on top of the Mini or Mini 2. And it comes with a little LED screen. It's not really, doesn't have a display. You write on it with a Sharpie, but at least it's backlit. So it's kind of silly, but if you want to send your loved one a 2-mile away message by flying your drone over there, line of sight of course, or with spotters, you can do that, or just fly across the living room and leave them a message. It could be cute, but really probably the reason to get it, it's probably the best way if you want to make a modified accessory mount. If you want to mount something else up there, it comes with a Lego mount. You can mount a Lego dude up there, or that screen I mentioned. I wouldn't really even put it on the list, but it's so darn cheap. I think it's about 15 bucks right now on DJI.com, and I think that low price probably speaks to its popularity not being that high. But like I said, if I was interested in mounting something on here other than a flying elf, I would probably be interested in getting that. You can modify it how you like. Just be careful with the payload capability, and do go into the menu and enter payload mode when you fly with extra stuff on here like prop guards or Lego dudes. Okay, 2 quick items, things you want to stock up on. Memory cards. If you only have one card, I'll go ahead and get another one. The 64 gigabyte ones to me have the best kind of price to usability. And I definitely like always having at least 2 of those with me. You can record quite a bit. They cost just like 15 bucks or something. If you get them on Amazon, DJI, they're going to cost you maybe 19 bucks. They do recommend getting the SanDisk Extreme, which is my preference. I mean, if they recommend it, I've never had any issues with them, and I do suggest you go pick up a couple of those if you don't already have them. Along with a memory card, you probably want to have a memory card reader as well. Well, you can plug into the drone to get your information off. This is my favorite way just to get the data into my computer. Depending what kind of computer you have, there's going to be different little adapters you may want. This is the one that works for me and works for most people. Another thing to stock up on if you didn't get the Fly More package is some extra batteries. They are pricey. I would recommend you use our link and get them from DJI.com directly. You get the same price on Amazon. So now a couple things you probably want to pass on. First thing you probably want to pass on is legs. So you can get these leg extenders. I've never quite understood these, so I went ahead and made some for free actually on my 3D printer. If you are interested in them and you do have a 3D printer, there are a few different options available on Thingiverse, which is kind of my go-to spot for 3D printed items. These are kind of cool because it's always a little tricky to find a way to get them on the back. And these go into little empty screw holes back there. This will sit your drone up a little bit higher, but to me the functionality just isn't there. It's not going to help you landing in grass really much. If you've got tall grass, it's just going to sink right in. Plus, this is going to add a little extra weight to your drone, and you got to take the time getting them on and off. If you are interested, you don't have a 3D printer, 10-15 bucks. There are a whole variety. There's some that look like skis. There's some that are legs like this. I'll put a link down there if you're really interested in that, and you're taken off from situations where you find that really useful. To me, a landing pad covers a lot more ground, and it's more functional. So I'd go that route. The second thing you really don't want to mess with is another undermounted thing, right? Some floats. Now, why would I want to land this on water? I just don't. The floats are underneath it. The center of gravity of this drone with the floats on it is on top. So it means this thing wants to float upside down with the floats above. So you won't lose your Mini 2, but it's going to be sitting there floating upside down if you try to land on water. So if you intentionally try to land on water with it, I think it's very risky, very likely to end up turtled like this and trash your drone, albeit not lose it. You'll at least get that memory card back, I guess. But just stay away from these floats, guys. This is not a waterproof drone. Last item on my list, this is kind of just a cool little thing I found on Thingiverse. If you have a 3D printer, you might have noticed I have this weird white battery in here. Not actually a battery. This is an extra little storage compartment. So the person that designed this realized that you're usually carrying your drone around like this. You got 2 batteries in here, backup. You can always check on their status, but there's this extra space in your compact carrying case. And so what they made is this little thing. exact shape of a battery, has a little cover. The hinge is just an extra piece of filament you stick in there, and you can use it to store things like extra props, for example. Alright guys, I hope you found this really informative. If you did, please subscribe to our channel and help us out just by using those links in the description. Those links don't cost you anything to use. I did a bunch of research finding you the least expensive alternatives, and they just throw a couple of bucks our way when you use them. Thanks so much. You can also check us out at halfchrome.com. I'll see you guys next time.